First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Recently, Donald Trump made headlines with a bold claim. He said pregnant women should avoid taking paracetamol, better known in the US as Tylenol or acetaminophen, unless absolutely necessary. He tied it directly to autism, suggesting that there is a strong link between prenatal exposure to the drug and children later being diagnosed with autism. He even went further, claiming the FDA will soon issue guidance on this. This sparked huge controversy, not just because of the statement itself, but because it plays into one of the most sensitive debates in medicine and parenting today. What causes autism? And how much trust should we place in science versus political rhetoric? So let's unpack this carefully. What do health experts say? What does the science actually show? And what can we realistically conclude? Right after Trump's remarks, health officials across the globe pushed back. The World Health Organization, the European Medicines Agency, and the UK's NHS all emphasized that the evidence linking paracetamol to autism is inconclusive. Their message was clear. There is no proven causal relationship. For now, medical guidance hasn't changed. Paracetamol is still considered the safest first-line pain and fever treatment during pregnancy, as long as it's used at the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary time. Doctors warn of another danger: avoiding treatment altogether. High fever during pregnancy has itself been linked to complications and developmental risks. So the balance is important. Untreated illness can be more harmful than carefully using the medicine. This is the nuance missing from Trump's speech. The science is complicated, not absolute. What do studies actually show? Here's where things get interesting. A number of studies have looked at this question over the years. Let's break them down.
Kloski, analysis.
NIH-funded JAMA Psychiatry study, 2019, Boston birth cohort. Researchers tested acetaminophen levels in umbilical cord blood from almost 1,000 births. They tracked the children up to age 9. Children in the highest third of exposure had a 3.6 times higher risk of autism and also higher ADHD risk. The strength of this study is that it used actual biological measurements, cord blood, rather than just asking mothers if they took paracetamol. The limitation, however, is that it was still an observational study, where researchers do not randomize participants and assign them to either take the drug or not. The second study is the Swedish sibling study, 2024. This study used 2.4 million children and looked at nationwide data comparing siblings, where one was exposed prenatally to paracetamol and the other was not. This study shows that at the population level, yes, there was a small link between paracetamol and autism. But in sibling comparison, the association disappeared. This suggests shared family factors such as genetics or environment may explain the risk, not the medicine. This is one of the strongest counter-arguments against a causal link. The third one is Mount Sinai Systematic Review 2025. This is a collection of 46 studies involving 100,000 children. It pulled together data from dozens of studies worldwide. It concluded that higher quality studies more often showed an association between prenatal paracetamol and autism or ADHD. But results were still inconsistent because the studies often relied on self-reported medicine use by mothers. Their takeaway was that the evidence was suggestive, but far from conclusive. Another study is the European Cohort Meta-Analysis 2019, involving 70,000 children in 6 countries. This looked at both prenatal and postnatal exposure and found a 19% higher chance of autism spectrum symptoms in exposed children. Also, a 21% higher chance of ADHD symptoms. An important detail is that many of these were based on presence of autism symptoms and not always a full clinical diagnosis. The next study is the Oxford Spanish Study 2016. This focused on maternal reports of paracetamol use and found that boys in particular showed more autism-related symptoms after prenatal exposure, and that risk increased with more frequent use, suggesting dose may matter. Then there is the Ecological Studies 2013. This compared countries or regions with higher paracetamol use to autism prevalence and found correlations that higher paracetamol use equals higher autism rates. But population-level correlations doesn't equal causation. These are also the weakest type of evidence, and there could be many confounding factors. So if we put all this side by side, what do we see? There are studies that show a possible association between paracetamol and autism, but there are also large, high-quality studies that don't support a causal link. The strongest evidence, the Swedish sibling study, suggests the risk is probably explained by genetics, family environment, or the illnesses that led to the mother taking paracetamol in the first place. Overall, the scientific community sees the evidence as mixed, modest, and far from settled. No major health authority has concluded that paracetamol causes autism. So what does this mean for parents, especially expectant mothers, who might be worried after hearing Trump's comments? Here is the key takeaway. There is no scientific consensus that paracetamol causes autism. Some studies show possible associations, others don't. Health authorities still say it's the safest option for pain and fever during pregnancy, safer than untreated fever, which itself can be risky. The advice is use it when you need it, at the lowest dose and for the shortest time, but don't panic. Donald Trump presented this as if the science is already settled. It isn't. The real story is more complicated. It's a mix of conflicting studies, ongoing debates, and lots of scientific caution. So before we jump to conclusions, we need to remember correlation is not causation. And when it comes to health in pregnancy, fear can be as dangerous as the illness itself.